Hello, guys. You know, when I first arrived in the UK, that was like in 2007, and I was really young and naive and stuff. And people used to come at me and just say, like, oh, Africa, this. When I say I'm come from the Congo, and they'll be like, oh, Congo's this. And I used to just like agree with them and say, like, yeah, it's bad, and there's war, there's famine and stuff. And yeah, and then as I've been here like nearly like what 17 years now, and I have changed my the way I've when people approach me and ask me about Africa, because I've educated myself so much. You know, when you're in Africa, you just see the negative and stuff, but when you come over here, like in Europe, then you realize how great Africa is. And this is what happened to me. So last week I was at work, and I was working with this man. He's like in his 70s, and basically he just started talking to me about Uganda, how Uganda President Idi Amin threw away throughout the Indians who had shops and stuff, and then after they left, a few not long after that, the Ugandan economy collapsed, and then he reached into Zimbabwe, and when he got into Zimbabwe, that's where I was like, you're not going to reach Zimbabwe, because my the father of my children is from Zimbabwe, so my children are half Zimbabweans. So I was like, you're not going to reach into Zimbabwe. But I'll let him talk. And he was like, oh, they took away the land from the farmers, and now they're not even doing the farming. The lands are rotting. The economy is down. There's famine. People are dying. There's no job. Blah, 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 blah. He was talking. And I said to him, like, look, yes, they took away the land and stuff, but it was their land, okay? And it's not like Mugabe just woke up one morning and was like, oh, I want my land back, give the land to my people. No. What he did was like he actually wanted to have a compromise, a conversation with them to say, look, you there's about 4,000 farmers, white farmers, owning 80 or 95% of the land. I want you to give some of the land, fertile land, back to my people so they can also grow their own food. Because all the food that was grown in Zimbabwe were not for the for Zimbabwean people. It was like exported to other European countries. So Zimbabwe, the local, didn't have a piece of fertile land to like actually grow their own food. So it was like difficult for them. So Mugabe wanted that to make it a bit fair, so his people have some fertile land. But let's talk about, and I was like, okay, let's also talk about the presence of those white farmers in Zimbabwe. How were they treating the Zimbabwean people? Yeah, there was segregation, a bit like what happened during slavery and like what happened in South Africa, where black people were not allowed to enter certain part of the city. They were not allowed to do certain things. They were not allowed to mix with the white man. The only time they will find themselves in the city is if they were like cleaners, gardeners, or if they work in the farm for the white man, right? And the black people, black Zimbabweans, were pushed into arid land, to like dry side of the country where there was drought and nothing much going on, not enough water, not enough to grow their crops. So it wasn't really, it wasn't a good condition. It wasn't fair, right, for the people. So that's why Mugabe was like, let's make it fair. We don't want you to go, but we want to work together, make it fair, so everybody can feel comfortable and happy. But they didn't want to listen to that, so that's how they end up leaving the place. Now they say he was like, oh, but like now the economy is down, they don't know how to do the farming, they're not doing anything, the government, blah 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 blah. I was like, okay, fair enough. Okay, let's say Zimbabwean economy is down, their currency has fallen and stuff like that. But do we actually know why? Since the lands have been taken away, Zimbabwe has been under sanction for over 20 years, right? when I mean sanctions, they're not like light sanctions, they're like really, really heavy sanctions, right? So if you're going to stop a government from trading on the international market, from trading with other countries, from stopping companies to come and invest in the country, how do you want the economy to work? Yeah, if there's no businesses, the government cannot create job for everyone. So they need business. They need to trade with other countries. They need to trade on the international market. They need to be able to sell their goods on the international market so they can create wealth for the country. So because of that been happening for 20 years, their currency has dropped. They're now using the US dollars. And but to be fair, I've been to Zimbabwe, right? My Zimbabwean people. I've been to Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe is doing great. It's doing great. For a country that's been under sanction for over 20 years, Zimbabwe is doing great compared to some African countries that have been free for I don't know how many years, like 60 or 70 years. Zimbabwe is doing amazing for under the circumstances of what they're going through. So I said to him, the narrative, they need to tell the both side of the story, not just one side about they were there and the ruins and stuff like that. And you need to tell also that when they were there was mistreatment of the locals, things were not fair, segregation, like nothing was right, nothing was made for the advantage of this local Zimbabwean. Yes, they were doing these things, but it was for their own benefit, right? So, and then he was like, oh yeah, you're right, you're actually right, I never seen it that way. In the news they don't say it that way, they don't explain it just the way you just explained to me. Now I kind of I understand and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, they don't tell the right, they tell what suits them and what benefit them. They don't tell the other side of the story. So to me, yes, Zimbabwe taking the line, yes, it's taking the time for them to be in a certain level, but I rather they go through that and have their land, be in possession, in charge of their own land and their country, or instead of having people being in charge and giving them breadcrumbs when they're taking everything, all the wealth for themselves and their family and their children. So if you're Zimbabwean and you agree with me, leave a comment down in the comment section. I am your Morore. I need to learn this Shona, but yeah. So I'm not this one of black people that used to like when they come to you and I will like agree with you. No, I actually educate myself, and now I can actually have a conversation and prove to you that what's happening, what's been said is not the truth. It's not the full truth. There's another side of the story, and you should like educate yourself as well before you start talking shit about any African countries to me. So yeah, have a good day. Bye bye.